This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by Law Firm Conversions. If your law firm's phone is ringing, that only means your marketing is successful. It's what happens when the phone is answered that will drive your success or failure. Visit www.intakeacademy.com and claim your free copy of Chris Mullen's groundbreaking book for lawyers and law firms that gets every call converting to become a profitable client, showing you the steps you need to take to ensure the right person is answering the phone and answering it correctly. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins, the phone sales doctor with Intake Academy and Lawyers Tell All. And today I'm interviewing, I'm going to say her name right, Keri Sicard. Is that right?
That's right.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Keri, tell everybody about yourself.
Thanks for having me. I am a patent attorney, second generation patent attorney. I started my own firm, Virtual IP Law, a little over 2 years ago. I am a mom of 3, Racecar driver in the summer, and I'm forging a new path to try to find a different type of law firm model that is different from the traditional partnership model, which is fine for some people, but was not a good fit for me. So here I am.
I love it. It's so strange because every once in a while, periodically, what I'll do is I'll do a search looking for virtual law firms because I just interested in it and I'm like all for it. And I don't really bump into a lot of them. So I was so glad to see that you are here today for us to interview. That's awesome. I got it. You know the first question I'm going to ask you, right? The first question everybody probably asks you, right? Tell me about the race car. Tell me about that.
Yes. So my family has a ski condo up in northern New Hampshire, and we discovered that there was a racetrack just down the road in the summer when we were up there.
Okay.
So our neighbors said, "Hey, do you know there's a racetrack?" And we had no idea, and we went, and on the way back, our neighbors said that was the worst thing I've ever been to. And me and my dad were like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's
Awesome.
Racing is definitely something you either love or you're like, you're driving in circles. What the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
But
what does it mean? And I'm looking at my notes, everybody. It says short track. What is that?
yes. So that's just a 1/4 mile track, which is basically the same size of a running track around a football field in high school. It's not very big.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. Said it's kind of like a big bowl. It's got the banked turns, and it's pretty interesting. What I loved about it is it really gave me a lot of natural knowledge about mechanical objects and how things work and making different changes to the suspension to make your car go faster. And my absolute favorite thing about racing is that when you get out on the track, just everything goes away. It's a great stress reliever for sure. And it's just a great family sport. My dad still raced this summer. He turned 81 in August and was still racing.
Nice.
And all 3 of my kids race. So it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I got into driving myself when I was 17, and I still do it kind of part-time. The business definitely took over the last couple of years, but I still like to get out there when I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. You should have had like a race car behind you today or something like that. That would have been really great. It's great. The speed must be really fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. The other thing I wanted to ask you this is, so you sent in your bio, and I loved how it was written, is patent attorney, disrupting the traditional law firm model and fixing what is broken with the new way we've always done things. That speaks to me loud and clear. So tell us about that.
Not every law firm that I worked at, but I felt like I heard a lot, we've always done it this way. You know, if you asked, well, why don't we do it differently, or can we change this? Well, we've always done it that way, so that's just, we're going to keep doing it that way. And the more people I talk to, there are very few industries on the planet that have not changed in the last
Mhm.
100 years.
Mhm.
However, the legal community, there's very little that has changed. I
Yeah.
mean, the same laws that were created for partnerships, those are 100+ years old, most
Mhm.
of them. And it's really pretty crazy to even think about. And, you know, and I'm not trying to put the partnership model down. It's
No.
great for some people,
Mhm.
but I think that for myself, I wanted to be able to serve, you know, the underserved client, and you really can't do that. You almost have a price that you have to charge your clients when you have that partnership model with fixed fees
Okay. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
fixed
Mhm.
salaries and things like
Mhm.
that. You
Mhm.
kind of turn into this cookie cutter establishment, which can be great for some people. Some people are meant for cookie cutters. I am a outside the lines person,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking the back road, taking the dirt road. So
Yeah.
I'm not a doing things the same way every single time. So
Yeah.
I like that variety, but I also like to be able to give that flexibility to clients. Not every client needs a 10 or $15,000 patent. Some of them only need, you know, a $800 trademark or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the problem I think with that, it's the way we've always done things, is you become so rigid in the way that you operate and you don't have any flexibility. And unfortunately, I think when you don't have flexibility, you're forced to only kind of take on one kind of client,
Yeah.
and that can be problematic.
Yeah. I totally agree. Um,
Mm,
and the way you're saying it about so many other industries that everybody changes. They're always changing their
mhm,
model no matter what. So
right.
why not law firms? So what's your model like? How does that work?
hmm So it's basically, I'm 100% owner.
Hmm.
It's a little bit different because we're all patent attorneys. We're naturally specialized.
Hmm.
Everyone is basically brought on in an of counsel role, but they just have the title patent attorney because that's their title.
Hmm.
I'm finding less and less people care about the title.
Hmm.
A lot of people want to work with me just because my name is not Sicard Law. They know that and I don't have a big ego. If I did, that would be the name of the firm.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hmm.
You know, so a lot of people like working with me for that reason.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but it's great having, you know, being able to work with people and give them that option, you know, that
Hmm.
that I wasn't able to give them at some of the bigger firms.
How many attorneys do you have?
We currently have 6 attorneys, and it's kind of interesting. When I started, so I started with myself and my dad and one staff person part-time in
Hmm.
October of 2020.
Hmm.
And I
Oh
took
boy.
on, yeah, great time to start a business.
Mm. Mm. Well,
Um,
like you said, you're outside the lines.
exactly, exactly.
I
And
like it though.
well, and so it's interesting you say there are not a lot of virtual firms. I myself, when I tried to find who's my competition, the closest thing I could find is firms that say they're virtual, but they really still have a home base where someone's opening the mail and
Yeah,
answering
right.
the
Yeah.
phones, and then everyone just works from home. So to me, that's not a virtual firm. I mean, I
Hmm.
envisioned this when I started as there's truly no home base.
Hmm.
I do have a co-working space that I use for my mail management, and they do have a conference room that I can use as needed. So it's
Hmm.
always interesting when someone says they want to meet in person. There's a little bit behind the scenes that people don't see, that
Hmm.
I'll ask
Yeah.
someone for their availability and then I reach out, or have, you know, my assistant reach out and to the co-working space and ask them if the conference room is available. But it's
Yeah,
not that different than a regular office. I would have to ask, one of the support staff, is our conference room available today?
yeah, it's the same thing,
And
yeah.
then
Or
I
you're reserving it, I'm reserving it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this particular co-working space, I do have a private office 1 day a week. I don't take advantage of it as much as I should, but it is available so that if I do need to meet someone in person, I try to meet on those days.
Mm-hmm,
So everyone is truly working from home. I have outsourced payroll, HR,
mm-hmm,
bookkeeping,
mm-hmm.
mail management, just as much as possible, which, none of this is groundbreaking by any means. And
It is for a law firm though.
and that's what's interesting. And
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people have said to me, well, why are you sharing this? Don't you want to keep it secret? Absolutely not.
Mhm,
One,
mm.
there's nothing, I'm not doing anything groundbreaking, right? But it
No,
took me 8 months to put all these, at least 8 months to put all these pieces. Oh, IT, that was the best one I outsourced, hands down. There are so many law firms that try to do IT themselves. Don't
yeah,
do it, even if you're just by yourself. Don't do
mhm,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, and so just, it took me 8 months to put all those pieces in place. Why wouldn't I give that to someone, and
right,
save them the eight
yeah.
months of figuring it out?
Mm-hmm.
Even if I gave someone on a silver platter, which I freely share this information, they still have to put the work in. It's not
Oh,
like
yeah.
clients are just going to walk through the door. So I kind of chuckle when people say, "Aren't you afraid of sharing?" It's like, no, I'm just, I would give this to anyone. I think it's not a perfect model, and I'm still working it out, and I'm still figuring things
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
But it works for me. It works for my people. So they all, instead of a traditional model, you have, an overhead that has to be supported. So you have salary that you
Mm-hmm.
expect people to make, and the percentage of that goes to the overhead. And then there's a certain amount of work that they're expected to do. That was okay 20, 30, 40 years ago. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is that most of the work that we are doing, especially in my field, it's fixed fee. So
Mm-hmm.
we're getting 10, $15,000 a patent, 5, 10, 15, 20, anywhere depending on the firm that you're at and the size that you are and the size of the client. Um, but our rates are going up every year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
either need to figure out how to get more efficient, which a lot of firms are implementing AI and, having bots create basic templates of apps, which is fine to me. I want to be writing the patent myself. I don't want to have to figure out how to more efficiently write a patent. I mean, yes, I'm going to get better over time, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to have machines doing that part. That's just my preference, right?
Yeah, right.
Some people, that's
Yeah,
fine. But you kind of have to, I won't say cut corners, but you have to get creative. And
yeah.
I don't, I won't say I don't have that problem at all, but because I don't have a fixed, my overhead is low,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone works on commission. So they just get a percentage of what they bill.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, I thought, who on earth is going to want this?
Yeah, right. They get a
Like,
commission and a percentage of what's billed.
they
Okay.
get yeah, seriously, and apparently my first posting, I literally had to shut down in 7 days because I got so many applicants, and they were very well qualified applicants.
Hmm. Really?
Actually had to
Huh.
put a hiring freeze in June because it was great. I hired everyone, but I realized, and I will tell this to anyone starting a firm, document your procedures. I mean, you specialize in this, the
Yeah,
intake of
yeah, yeah.
people, all of the parts, whether it's the intake,
Yep.
the actual doing of the things, the steps after, document your processes. So we had a hiring freeze, documented all of our processes. We're almost done working on that, working the rest of the kinks out, and now I think we can hire more. But it turns out a lot of people don't want to have that crazy 2000, whatever it is now, 3000
Yeah.
hours a year requirement. They like being able to set their own schedule, and it
Hmm.
can be challenging at times. I have particularly one attorney, she likes to go off grid for up to 6 or 8 weeks at a time, and we have other people manage. That's the beauty of having six attorneys, is it's pretty easy to pick that up.
Okay, yeah.
And then when she comes back, she'll work harder than anyone for 3 or 4 months. So it evens out time wise. And
Mhm.
no, it's not a piece of cake. I literally, I think, have 7 people's email in my inbox just that I can check at any point in time if I need to jump into someone's email.
Just to make
Um,
sure, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it's like I said, I thought who's going to want this model? And it turns out a lot of people, they just want that freedom, that flexibility. Maybe people that are winding down in their career or retiring and they can't or they don't want to sustain that really high minimum hourly requirement.
Mhm.
Um,
What's
it,
the age bracket of the attorneys that are with you?
I have a pretty good range of everyone in their 30s to my dad is in his 80s.
Yeah. Why did you pick patent law?
My dad's a patent attorney.
So that's how
So
it
the
all
Apple,
started?
yeah, so that's where it started. When he was an attorney, you used to have prototypes of anything
Mhm,
before you could get a patent on it. So he was always coming home with these really neat medical device
mhm.
equipment. And even back then in the 90s, he was working from home 2 to 3 days a week, which was almost unheard of. So
Yep.
I just
Mhm,
thought that is really cool. I want to be able to work from anywhere, and you're doing the same thing. You're doing a patent over and over again, but literally every single time you're learning some new technology or learning about something
mhm,
new or an
mhm.
improvement on something. So it's really phenomenal. I mean, my dad's 81 and he's still sharp as a tack. So
Yeah,
I hope that it keeps me as young as it has kept him.
yeah, that would be awesome. What about clients? Do you get pushback at all? Because, I mean, you must push the virtual, right? I mean, you have an office if you need to, but do they mostly, oh yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, for the most part, surprisingly, the most surprising feedback I have received is that people think we're not accessible, or that they're not going to get a real person on the other end, or that we're not as available because we're
Yeah,
virtual.
yeah,
And we're still working on combating that, but I tell people that I'm actually more available. There were
yeah.
times in my career where I was commuting 30 to 40 hours a week. Um, some
Mhm,
days I kind of, it's being at top, this is what happens, but I'm available for my team from basically 7 in the morning until 8 at night. If we were all working in an office together, that there's no way, and I can be sitting by a bonfire or having dinner with my kids and okay, I got to send this quick text or this quick email. I mean,
mhm,
it's a different kind of lifestyle and it's definitely not for everyone. You have to be pretty self-committed, but for me,
mhm,
I love it. I'd rather be available to my team more. But that's one thing I'm trying to portray to everyone is even though we're not in one space, we're still very well connected to each other. We still have weekly calls with everyone. I have bi-weekly check-ins with my teammates to make sure that they're doing okay. But as
Yeah,
far as
talk more
clients,
about that,
yes.
more about that, like, because your note here says about um, passionate about giving employees and attorneys a better, more supportive and positive work environment. So I think people would be interested in that. One, even if it was bricks and mortar, people would be
Mhm.
interested in that. But even not being so, like being virtual, how do you do it? Like, what are some of the things that you figured out are important?
I think the number one thing is for your team to know that you really care about them. I think that it kind of comes back to it's the way we've always done things.
Mhm.
In the law firm industry, there's been such a negative reinforcement way of doing things. And even with kids, we found positive reinforcement is better than
Yeah,
negative reinforcement.
and
And I,
even for your dog.
yeah,
I'm
right. I mean,
serious. I mean,
you can beat it or you can give it a treat. You're going to get
right,
the same
yeah,
result, but
right.
he's probably going to be happier with the treat, and so are you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, as silly and as basic as that sounds, and we're laughing about it, but it's kind of true.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had this conversation with a lot of attorneys where they've just had such hypercritical supervision, just unnecessarily. As attorneys, we are so critical of ourselves anyway.
Mhm.
Most of the time, all you have to do is say, hey, I circled an error on page 8 and I'm going to go beat myself up for a half an hour about it anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to be, it doesn't need to be in red and I'm the worst. I
Yeah.
remember one partner told me that I need to come into the office more so that when I'm doing tasks, I'm not distracted, because to him, clearly he couldn't get work done at home, so nobody else could. That's fine. Okay. But I can. I actually get more work done anyway.
Yeah.
So he gave me that feedback. You need to be in the office more, because I had sent it on a Saturday. I can tell you were distracted when you did this. And this like big long rant about how I'm not as committed as an attorney and all of this. And I just started bawling when I got the email because,
Mm,
one, what does that have to do? Like, it just was so inappropriate on so many levels, but I had seen it so many times that it was just like, okay, here we go again. And the other reason I got so upset was, yes, I had sent it on a Saturday. I had gone into the office on a Saturday to be quiet and be distracted, not distracted, and get it done. And
mm-hmm.
he just made this assumption about me that, oh, she sent it on a Saturday, she's at home trying to,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't even tell you how many stories. That's not even one of the worst ones, about just that negativity and, you know, this person's billed this much and you've only billed this much, and everything's just, it was never a positive leadership. My first child, I never had a maternity leave with any of my 3 kids. I literally brought my laptop to the hospital all 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back from my first maternity leave, the partner said, oh, Keri just got back, she was on vacation for a couple of weeks. And it's just,
Yeah.
that's the worst vacation I've ever had.
Mhm. But what is it like? So this and what you're saying happens everywhere, like in every
Yes.
law firm, virtual, not, I mean, it just does. And it's not just law firms, all
Right.
businesses don't, you know, don't have a knack for treating their team
Mhm.
wonderfully.
Mhm.
Mostly I think they don't know how to,
Mhm.
and they just don't know how to. And they're trying to keep things afloat. So they're thinking more about, get the marketing done to get the leads in, and that's it. It doesn't mean it's okay, but
Mhm.
so what, other than, it's like, what is it that you do specifically, just a few things to try to give more to your team?
Mhm.
Like besides like the attorney that goes off the grid for a little bit, what else do you do to try to help them to feel good about what they're doing?
Mhm. I think it's the small things that really make a big difference. Everyone, when they come on, they get a welcome gift with a couple gift cards and a mug. It's not a big deal, but it's just a gesture of, we're excited to
Mhm,
have you on the team.
mhm,
Especially when you work virtually, I think it's really important to send some small something, even
mhm.
if it's just a
Yeah.
card that
Mhm.
says, "Hey, welcome to the team."
Yeah.
Not just an email, something physical that they get from
Mhm,
you.
mhm,
Um, and the other thing that I received this advice early on, and I'm really glad that I did. So every week we have a call Thursday at noon. If you can hop on, great. Family and client matters always trump the Thursday calls. So if you have a client deadline or a family matter, the first 5 minutes are always just chatting.
mhm,
That's one thing that I heard: when you are having calls with your team,
mhm,
never just jump right into work.
mhm,
Always at least, how are you? How's your
mhm,
day going? How are the kids? What's
mhm,
going on?
mhm.
I know we're all so busy and it feels like I don't have that extra time. But taking that little bit of extra time makes a really big difference, and you really
Mhm.
get to know people.
Yeah.
The other thing I do is I have once yearly retreats, so everyone gets together and gets to meet each other. But I think
That's
the
great. Yep.
the biggest thing is people just want to be seen and heard.
They
Um,
want to know that they matter for
they
what
want to know
they
that they
are, what they
matter.
do.
And I hope, if anyone on my team is listening, block your ears. Sometimes I ask for feedback even when I don't even
really
when I know
want.
I'm not going to use it.
Oh, you're not gonna, oh. Because you want them
Just
to know that they're contributing, right?
just because I want them. And believe it, I've had it happen where I actually ended up, I was like, you know what? That was a good idea. I wasn't expecting.
Yeah,
So ask your team for feedback all the time. How am I doing? Can I be doing anything differently? Am I supporting you well enough?
yeah,
Just once a month. Am I
yeah,
supporting you well enough? How are things going? I think that goes a really, really long way.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Perfect, perfect. Um, so what about your dad? I'm just curious. What did your dad think about the virtual when you first mentioned it to him? What do you think?
It was actually his idea to go virtual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, back in the 90s, he went ahead and worked from home. So
Yes. Yeah, he in the middle of the pandemic, I was unfortunately laid off, as many were, although it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. Or at least I say that we're 2 years in.
yeah,
As long
right.
as I continue on this trajectory, which I will. I've
Yeah,
had people
yeah,
say, "What are you going to do if it doesn't work?" Like, it's going to work. I don't have any other option.
yes, yeah. We don't even think about that.
Yep. And so, right around August of 2020, I decided, all right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to start a firm. And my dad said, you know what? I really don't think the world is going to go back to the way it was. I mean, he's 79 at the time.
Mhm.
He said, why don't you just go fully virtual? And it was funny because now everything's virtual, 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 virtual. But 2 years ago, that term was just starting to become a thing.
Isn't it crazy?
It is so crazy. And
It's an interesting fact is that in my business, I don't know, I guess maybe I was like your dad, because in my business, I have been virtual for, I don't know, maybe 20 years.
mhm,
And I just did it that way. So all my team, they're somewhere else. And there was no Zoom. So we just did conference calls. So we did conference calls. We didn't do Zoom. We did conference calls for all clients. I actually had a client that wanted me to speak at their conference, and I said, nope, I can't travel there. So they got the phone system at the hotel, and I'm on a big speaker to the audience giving a presentation. So yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty interesting. So he made the suggestion, and at first I'm thinking, okay, can you even do that? Like, as a law firm, do you
Yeah.
need to have a physical presence? And I will say that is one thing that thankfully some of the laws have changed. I can remember when I was in law school, you physically had to hang your diploma had to be physically hanging in your office. I
Hmm.
believe that was like a rule for the New Hampshire state of New Hampshire to be an attorney. And thankfully, that's not a requirement anymore. And I even called, I remember calling the bar and asking them, and the person I got was like, well, everyone's working from home, so of course you must be okay. I'm like, all right, well, then I guess I'm gonna, I checked everything I could, but it was really interesting. I remember going over the ethics rules with just a fine-tooth comb to make sure I didn't miss anything,
Yeah.
to see,
Yeah.
can I really operate as a fully virtual firm? I mean, I know there are firms that operate out of their home, but what does that look like? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been interesting for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have anything else that you want to share with everybody?
Oh, I will say, one thing I wish I knew earlier, and this is for all businesses, is that your website needs to be ADA compliant.
Okay.
And if you are a law firm, you are a prime target. People, there are not scammers, but people out there that they build their business on this, and they will
Mhm.
target law firms because they just make the assumption that they have a lot of money, and they can
Hmm.
get statutory damages just based on your website not being ADA compliant.
Hmm.
And throwing a plugin on your there is generally not enough. So make sure you check out,
Okay,
with a
that's
good
good.
website person. I know that is incredibly random, but I had to spend a lot of time and effort and money completely redoing my website, and I wish I had known that in the
Yeah,
first
so
place.
no, that's great. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. It's great to meet you, especially since you're in my backyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really great.
This flew
Yeah.
by. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It was fun. And all right, everyone. So long. Thank you for joining us again at Lawyers Tell All. We'll see you real soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All, where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.